Hello, Upon Against It learners. I am Mr. Moscarelli. I am one of the co-coordinators of the Upon Against It Personalized Portfolio, or P3 system, along with Mrs. Lloyd, who's going to take over in the back half of this. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we're doing the portfolio or P3 system in the first place, and she's going to give you some more details about what's expected this year and beyond this year. All right, so let's get into this. Why do we do it? Graduation. So think about yourself walking across the stage in whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. What we want to do is ensure that you have the skills that you need to graduate. And so what do you need to graduate? Just kind of nuts and bolts. You need 22 course credits. You probably knew that already. And there's some specifics there that are all in the program of studies about what types of credits you need. You will work with your school counselor to figure that out. You also need, before you graduate, to complete a passion project. Typically, by the end of senior year in May or so, you will present your passion project. And Mrs. Keeble is the person who is in charge of that. The other component is what we're here to talk about today, the P3 or Upon Against It Personalized Portfolio, which also, of course, includes your ILP. So these are called the performance-based graduation requirements. Why do we have these? Well, we want to make sure that you know certain things. So the question that was asked years ago by this group called NEASC, which accreditates us, is what should a Upon Against It graduate know and be able to do? And we had to define those things. Now, the knowledge part, frankly, is something that we test you on all the time. When I say test, meaning like literally multiple choice tests or short answers. You have outside tests like the PSATs and the SATs. So what you know is something that we think we do very well, and we are pretty sure by the end of 4 years of what you know. The what you're able to do piece is the piece that's a little bit harder sometimes to do, and maybe is a little bit less traditional for high schools, and that gets to the idea of skills. So for instance, I'll use this as a way to think about it. The driver's examination paper tests, right? So you go into the DMV and you take a multiple choice test to show that you know the rules of the road. That's the know part. For instance, this sign indicates the distance from the road surface to a bridge or overpass. So let's say, do you know how to read that sign? Well, this driver clearly, I guess, passed the test, but when it came to be able to do, they didn't do so well. So the knowing thing and the being able to do thing are two separate things. It's the skill of driving that's also probably as or more important than knowing the basic rules of the road. So you have to know both, but without the skills, bad things happen. So that's, of course, why we have a practical skills-based test when someone is in the driver's seat actually driving, and then there's someone giving you the road test. So the analogy that we have at Upon Against It High School is to focus on the skills, and the way we do it is through these four big buckets, which are basically badges, which you'll hear more about. So the badges that we're going to ask you to earn before you graduate are communicator, thinker, citizen, and learner. These are different groups of skills or skill sets. And how do we know if you have these skills? By the examples that you put into the P3 system. So let's talk specifically about what has to go into that P3 system. So this system is where you should know how you are meeting the PHS mission. So let's read the mission statement for a second. We want to empower future-ready graduates, so ready for the future. Hopefully along the way you figure out what your passion is and your purpose. So what is it that you're really interested in, and then what is that purpose? How are you going to use that passion and drive towards something like a career or college, etc. And along the way, making sure that you are proficient. And that's where the skills piece comes in. And so the four big badges that we're asking you to earn are what are called competencies. And so the competencies show that you are competent or proficient in these four areas. And then there are subsections of each one, and we call those the transferable skills. So for the most part, we operate in the land of transferable skills. So for instance, we're going to ask you to have a certain number of transferable skills in order to earn the competency badge, which we'll walk you through in a moment. These transferable skills, how are they assessed? They're all assessed using these rubrics. These rubrics are available. They're linked from the portfolio site. They're also linked from Canvas. Your teachers also probably supply you with them as well. And so the language here about proficient, that is the minimum that you need in order to achieve an entry that is what we call acceptable. So you want to be getting 3s and 4s on these rubrics in order to earn these badges, if you will. Okay, so what do you need to do this year? And to explain it in more detail, I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Lloyd. Have a sparkling day.
Hello, class of 24. It is Mrs. Lloyd. I am here today to talk to you about everything you can do to make sure that you have a super successful year with your P3 portfolio. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do today, especially if you're in a semester class, is to check in with your teachers. You want to make sure you are prepared to upload a proficient task for each of your semester courses by the end of the semester, which is January 24th. Your end of the year goal is to complete a minimum of 1 proficiency task for each course you are taking. Now, if you failed to put in entries last year, this is your chance to get in some additional entries. You are only being asked to complete 1 per class, but your teachers will be providing upwards of 4 opportunities for you. So it's ultimately going to be up to you how much you want to invest into making sure that you have enough proficient entries into your portfolio. What I do not want you to do is wait, because in the spring, as you know, you will need to complete more proficiency tasks and begin your student-led tour. You have already probably learned this lesson. By starting now, you will make sure that you are prepared and that your fall semester teachers have time to score your entries. If you have any questions or do not remember how to put up an entry, simply click on the info button in the system. It has all the latest news. It will have this presentation and other information that is always kept up to date for you. Now, you might still be asking yourself, even though you're not a freshman anymore, why do I need to complete these proficiency tasks? Now, I know Mr. Mascarelli already started to talk about this, but these proficiency tasks are going to count towards your graduation competency badges. Now, I know that's a word we haven't used a lot before, but it's going to be a word that we use moving forward. If you go into the P3 system, there's actually a button for badges you may not have noticed before. If you click on that badging button, it will bring you to your 4 graduation competencies. And as you can see from this student example, this student has slowly started to fill in their requirements for each of the badges. They have about half of thinker, they have more learner than anything, and they have some communicator and citizen as well. As you put in your entries this year, you will start to see your badges fill up just like you see here for this student. And if you're in a CTE program, very soon we will be revealing your badges as well so that you can watch the progress that you're making within your program. For sophomores, the requirement by the time you graduate is to have 5 proficient transferable skills underneath the thinker graduation competency. It's 3 for citizen, 7 for communicator, and 7 for learner. These totals are different for you than they are for freshmen because you didn't have this information last year. We've made sure to think of everything and make sure that everything is as fair as possible. If you've missed any of this presentation, please reach out to your teachers, go to the info page on the P3 system, or as always, you can reach out to myself or Mr. Mascarelli with any questions. I hope you have a fantastic day.